Welcome, fellow travelers, to the second episode of Young Man's Perspective. I'm your co-host, Marcus.
And I'm your other co-host, Spencer. Today we're going to be looking at what it is you look for in friends that will either push you to become a better person, or maybe if these friends are holding you back. What are your thoughts on this?
I think it's definitely something that is very effective towards your character. You know, in order to determine where you are character-wise, you need to notice what influences your life. And I think the largest place that's done in your life is with your friends and the people that you hang out with. You know, the old saying, you know, tell me your friends and I'll tell you who you are. And I think that's very true, and it's very accurate. And so kind of at a beginning point when you're reestablishing and you're reflecting on your life, knowing who you hang out with and whether or not they're influencing you in a good way or they're holding you back is a starting point to reevaluate where you are and move forward.
And I wouldn't even say just show you who you are, you know, show me your friends. And my pastor has a fun saying of saying, show you your future. So, because if you're looking at who the person's hanging out with, then you have the possibility to see what their entire future could play out as if they don't have a friend group that's pushing them to become a better person.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's very interesting how friends really do affect you and how subtle they do it. Because if you really begin to notice, you start to behave like your friends and do the little things like your friends. Their sayings, their actions, their little quirks. You really do start to imitate your friends, and that can be a good thing, and that can be a bad thing. And I would say the biggest factor in being able to tell whether or not your friends are actively pushing you to be a better person is, do they challenge you on things that you are not okay with doing yourself? And what I mean by that is, you know how when you have a mental breakdown and you're having a little bit of emotional relapse into whatever your negative vice is, do your friends call you out on that, right? Because they know what you want, and they know that you're not living up to the standard that you want, so they challenge you. Not because they want to be confrontive towards you, but because they know that you're not living up to the expectation you want to hold yourself to. What do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree. It's if your friends aren't challenging you, then to be honest, they're really not even your friends. Like I feel like that's one of the biggest purposes of really having a friend. It's not just someone there to console you and be like, oh yeah, you're right. It's someone that you should be able to have fun hanging around. But, you know, you should both be pushing each other to become a better person. Now, that can display itself in various ways. It could be mentally, it could be emotionally, it could be physically. And there could also, they might be helping you push you mentally, but they could be drawing you back in other areas. It's good to find a friend that's always constantly pushing you in every single area of your life, and you to them as well, because you don't want just a good friend. You want to be a good friend.
Oh, absolutely. And it really does start with allowing the people that are not doing that to let them go. And it's hard because, you know, sometimes, you know, they're your bros. They've been around forever. You know, they're your best friend. And oftentimes you really do have to walk away if you want to be in a better place in your life. I'm sure you've seen it, you know, that one friend that's like, why do you hang out with someone that's like so much, that's holding you back so much? You know, and you really can't explain it, but it's their inability to let go of someone that was there for them for a long time, but now is starting to hold them back. And it's a very sad reality, because if you're not growing in your relationships, whether that's romantic or friendships, you're going to be stagnant in every aspect of your life. You have to be growing. You have to be maturing. You have to be getting better. And it starts with the people that you hang around with. So I think, you know, what would be a second sign that your friends are not being there for you in the way that they need to be, or like not pushing you in the way that they should be?
Well, if they're not challenging you, which, I mean, if you think about it as a scale, right? And the better friends you are, or the better someone is a friend to you, they're challenging you in positive ways. They should be challenging you in pretty much every way. And maybe they're not challenging you in some areas, but as long as they're not being a detriment, like if they're helping you, like I said earlier, if they're helping you maybe emotionally, but they're not necessarily the brightest and they can't push you on like a mental standpoint, as long as they're not taking you down, as long as they're building you up, at least in that certain area, and maybe you're helping them with that, which they have trouble helping you with. You know, that kind of went back and forth. So basically, if you're going on a scale from, you know, just super bad toxic friend to betterment, the only thing I could think of that would be different would be toxic behavior. Basically, as a friend is the only thing that I could think of, other than if they're not challenging you, either they're not there for you at all, or toxic behavior would be other indicates of a friend that needs to be let go.
Yeah, most definitely. And, you know, kind of reverbing off of what you said, I think one thing that a lot of friends do that's a subtle sign that they're not really, they're not really down for you in the moments in which you'll need them is every time that you have a complaint, they match it with a complaint of their own, right? Because oftentimes the people that don't complain are not the people with the least amount of problems. They're the most emotionally mature to handle them on their own. So when those people come and complain to you, it means something, right? Those people are reaching their breaking point emotionally, right? They would normally not come out and say that to you. And so when they do, you need to recognize that and be like, whoa, this person doesn't normally do this, so there must be actually something wrong. And it could be a little thing that finally tips them over that edge. But your friends, when you get to that point emotionally where you just can't handle something, do they match a complaint with a complaint, or do they match it with not only guidance but understanding? Because a good friend understands that the first thing you need is reassurance that what you're doing is helpful to someone else and helpful to yourself. Because ultimately, if you're not striving and they're not challenging you, like Spencer said, to be a better person, they're taking away from that. So when you come to them and you vent, how are they receiving that? Are they receiving it with a vent of their own? Or are they receiving it with knowledge that you would not normally go out and complain and throw your burdens per se on them? Do they recognize that as being a case where they need to kind of hold back and be like, understand that and be there for you in a more meaningful way? Whether that means coming visit you if possible, even a FaceTime call, anything that shows that they're there for you beyond just a simple text message, because real friends understand that text messaging is not the best place. No. It's not the best place to give advice, and it's definitely not the best place to console someone. So I think that's definitely something I feel, especially with the better friends that I have, they always do that. They make an effort to solve that problem with me in person, whether that's a phone call or, that's coming and visit me, getting me out. It's just they're always there for me beyond just a simple text message that anyone can send.
And I feel like just going off of that, going a bit deeper in terms of sometimes when someone's venting to you, you're not going to have the knowledge, and sometimes you might not have the understanding, but just the simple fact of listening, just listening to what the person 100%. Has to say and being sympathetic to what that person has to say.
100%.
And just, I may not totally understand, but I'm sorry what you're going through, and I'll try to help you out any means possible, and just being there for that person. And going off the complaining thing, I think this would be something kind of like almost like a little spin-off, but just toxic behaviors of friends that you should be
toxic behavior.
Toxic behavior as in, toxic, like poison, generally eats away.
Yeah, well, I get the term.
So something. No,
give me an example.
I'm going okay. into it. So a toxic or poisonous behavior would be something that takes away from your quality of life or takes away from your being. It's something that maybe you don't always recognize it at first, but it's like you're hanging around this person and then you leave, and then suddenly it's like, man, why am I so drained?
Mm-hmm.
So and things like that could be, as you mentioned, we were talking about, is complaining. I know a couple of people who do that. It's just, they're constantly complaining, and it's like, it's not even the whole matching the vent thing. It's just, you don't need to constantly complain. It seems like you have nothing great in your life, when in reality, generally your life's not that bad. There's so many other people that have it worse. Other toxic traits, negativity.
All the time.
Can't stand negativity. Like, I understand being realistic, okay?
That's two different things.
That is two different things. I understand being realistic, and generally when it comes to being realistic, it's expecting the worst possible outcome but hoping for the best. Mm-hmm. So, you do what you can.
Preparing for the worst, hoping for the best.
Yeah. But like when someone is negative, shooting down ideas, like, we're not doing this is bad, whatever, and it's kind of like, why even bring anything? And then narcissism. I've seen this at a couple people too. Narcissism, it's like they're above reproach, and you cannot talk to them on anything. And this is mainly I find this a lot more in guys than anything. But those are just some things that I found that really, really get on my nerves. Hypocrisy and naivety. I've seen that in a lot of guys as well.
And ultimately, don't associate with people that demonstrate these characteristics on a regular basis. Because one, it rubs off on you. Two,
yeah.
it's a reflection of you when they behave that way with other people, right? Have you ever, that person that like you just absolutely cannot stand, right? And you find out one of your friends is like really close with them. It puts a little space between you guys. And so don't associate with people that constantly demonstrate negative behavior or toxic behavior, as you said, because it will eat away at you in the smallest levels, and it will grow and it will manifest itself later on. Just like in our last episode about lying, it grows continuously, right? And I think ultimately it's very sad that you have to let people go, but you also have to understand that in order for you to be the best of friends, you have to have the best of friends, because again, you're a reflection of them.
I would say, just kind of like we were saying, toxic people, how it grows. An analogy might be like it's a rust spot, right?
Mm-hmm.
You get a rust spot on your vehicle, it's going to keep growing and eating away, which leads me to another analogy I enjoy. I enjoy my analogies. Is a vehicle, so a bus. Think about your life. I've had people use this analogy to me before. Your life is your bus, and ultimately you're the main driver. I mean, there's circumstances outside of your control and other external factors.
Traffic.
But there's going to be traffic. But I mean, you're the one that's ultimately deciding the destination and which turns you take. But again, you're driving a bus, so you're also deciding who you let into your life and who you choose to make go. All right. There's only so many seats on a bus, and you can't have a chaotic bus, right? So people who shouldn't be there. You need to get them off the bus. It might be hard, but their time has gone, and that person shouldn't be there. Meanwhile, you should be allowing people who are bettering you into your bus. And another thing I don't really think we talked about too much was basically people who aren't really either. So maybe they're not challenging you.
Yeah.
And the thing I have about the mediocre ones is
they're the worst, honestly.
yes,
they
because
really are.
They can be hard to identify. And the reason they're the worst is because you're wasting your time.
It doesn't go anywhere, right?
It doesn't go anywhere. There's no experience for it. You're ultimately wasting your time, because they're not gonna push you. Maybe they're not bad, but it's just a waste of time hanging out with someone who's not gonna push you.
Here's the way to think about a mediocre friend, right? You're driving. You're trying to be better. No, you're trying to be better, okay, right? And they reach you at point A, right? And you're trying to get to point C, right? But in order to do that, you have to pass through point B, which is where that friend is, right? And you stay there for a little while. You try to improve. You are trying to get to point C. They're at point B, and they're not going to move with you.
Yeah.
Right? So even though they're there with you at a certain point in which you're trying to reach, right? It's a constant journey of getting better. And that's what's so dangerous is mediocre friends will respond to you. They won't leave you on red. They'll talk to you on the phone. They'll be there for a time. But when things get difficult or you try to improve, they'll be like, whoa, what's going on? Like, why are you changing? Why aren't you cursing anymore? Why aren't you going out with me anymore? Like, and those are the really dangerous ones. Not only because they were where you were at and not where you're going. And that's what's so subtle about them. And mediocrity kills more success than failure does.
And just the reason they're so much more dangerous in addition to that is because we as humans are uncomfortable with change. We don't like change. We like to be where we're at. So in some ways, it'd almost be easier to stay with a toxic friend because something's always going to happen, or obviously a better friend that's improving you. But when you get that mediocre in there, like, you're so against change and you're comfortable where you're at that you don't even realize, like, this friend's holding you back. They're not pushing you forward, but they're holding you back.
Yeah.
And that's
and an even more subtle mediocre friend is the ones that travel just behind you. They will play off of your success, and I've had a lot of these. As you try to get better, whether for me it was in sports, it could be in school, it could be in your job, it could be just in character, where they're always right behind you. They're nagging at your ankles. They're never pushing you to be better. They're never right where you're at, but they're always trailing behind you, and it's come on, dude, catch up so we can get to we can get better. But they never pave a way. They never make a transition to being better easier. They're always right there. They're like that. They're like the geese that fly right behind the head of the triangle and don't do anything. You know what I mean?
I mean, that's not the greatest
but you know what I
analogy,
mean?
but I know what you mean.
They don't change spaces with you, because that's a necessity with, again, a good friend is like when you start to fail, did they take the lead? Did they take the lead in making you better? Did they lift you up and push you to be better? Why? Because it's ultimately what you want. And I think that's the epitome of a good friend.
I mean, in some ways, if they're right behind you, it could be that they see you as a rival, or possibly if they're a rival, they could be pushing themselves a bit more. But it's possible that they see you as a mentor, and they're right behind you because they're constantly learning and seeing what you're doing.
But you shouldn't be a mentor of your friends consistently. In some areas, in your strengths, yes, that's you help them with that, and vice versa. But if you are taking the parental role in a friendship.
So if you're the mom or the dad of a group,
it's sad to see so many young people that have fantastic potential to be amazing at something, and the people holding them back are their friends. Yeah. And it's very sad because it happens a lot of times, especially because they're afraid of being different. Like if you're, this is a bad example, but if you're one of the people that hangs out with really dumb people, right, and you're not a dumb person, and you want to get better and you want to do better in school, they'll condemn you for doing well.
Yeah.
And then it's like, why are you condemning me for being a little bit better than I was yesterday? Because they're not going to go with you. They're not going to ride with you down that road to improvement. And that's the toxicity that we're trying to get, this community of people that we're trying to build here to recognize. And it's a little unsettling at times.
I think, just going off that, the hardest part is finding people that are going to be happy for your success and you for them. That is so hard. The only thing I've heard of being even close, because let's be honest, we all get a little jealous. It's hard. It's really something you have to overcome. But the only times I've ever seen someone happy for someone being more successful than them is when a child surpasses their parent in a certain area. Mm-hmm. That's the only time I've legitimately seen. So as a friend, that can be so. As a friend, that can be so hard to do. So it's just really something you gotta work on overcoming. And it looks like we're gonna need to start wrapping up here.
Yeah. I pray for the young people out there, each and every day, just to remember, your friends are a representation of who you are. You should have, I heard this somewhere, it's like the 33% rule. You should spend 33% of your time with people who are where you want to go, 33% of your time with people that you're right at, you're their level, and 33% mentoring people to get to where you are. Use this ratio, but remember, you can't have that one friend you're always the 33% with. You always have to be moving, creating new friends, new relationships, and moving forward and letting go of toxic ones in the past. And it's difficult, and it's not very easy to say, hold on, your influence is not making me someone who I want to be, and I recognize that, and it's not to a fault of your own. Your goals are just different than mine.
Yeah, variety is extremely important in choosing friends and making sure people who, whatever it is that you're trying to push for, has a similar goal in mind. So with that, guys, it can be so hard, really, really hard to let go of friends. And we've both done that. We both understand that. I don't think we really used any major experiences.
And that's a good thing. It keeps the separation of people in our past in the past.
Yeah.
Right. But we've both done that, and we've both had to let go of relatively close people to us, and it hurts. It really, really hurts sometimes. And there were people that were there for you, and they change, and they start to lose interest in improving, and you have to let it go. You can be there for that friend that's going through a rough patch, but that rough patch doesn't last 3-4 years, right? If they're constantly going backwards and backwards and backwards, you have to let them go, because they'll take you with you. They'll take you with them. Right, so with that, guys, please support us on Patreon. That link will be down below. Please join our free Discord, where you guys can interact with us on a personal level, get to know us a little bit more, and chat with us. We will be doing a live stream sometime this or next week on our Twitch. Please subscribe and like this video. Comment down below new topic suggestions, and we will see you in the next one.
All right, stay safe, guys.